Many people know Mike Kinsella from his multiple music endeavors, including Captain Jazz, Owls, American Football, and Owen. Mike recently took some time to chat with me about The Avalanche, his latest release under the Owen moniker.
Dear Lord, let me be anything but bored or in love.
Like, I have to decide I'm going to do a new record. That's sort of how I, like literally one day to the next, I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a new record. And that was probably a year and a half ago. You know what I mean? It's a long time ago. Then you kind of work on the songs, you start organizing sort of demos and stuff. And then you schedule recording time, and you do that. And then you have lead time for the label to put it out. And so everything happens well in advance. And then it sort of comes out and you're excited for you. I was sitting on it for 6 months, or something, or just about that. And then, it comes out and you realize like the world didn't change. You're just like, oh, cool. Like people hear it and they seem to like it. And it's, I think the reaction is pretty good. Like I think people that want to like it will like it. If they're already sort of fans of me, it seems to be a good reaction. I mean, it's fun just to have it out there. And it's, I guess conversely, it's like such a bummer to not be able to like play shows now that I got like so many new songs like in my pocket, that I can play.
Just an ordinary kiss before the avalanche hit. It's those little things I miss, the unadorned.
Well, maybe one of the positives from this is when you do get to get back out there, everyone will be familiar with these songs, right? So maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Whenever that is, but yeah, like, right. The people come to the shows, it'll be, they'll know what to expect more, and or they might have songs that they're looking forward to in a way that if I just sort of play them cold, then there's not quite the same reaction. To be honest, like I'm sort of just not being able to play shows and not be able to have like a normal album cycle. I'm like, okay, maybe I'll just write some more songs. You know what I mean? Like I have an urge to be productive in some manner, so I have more time to sit around and pick up guitars and sort of organize, like I said, like demos and stuff than I would sort of usually if I was touring a lot, or, if I'm touring, then that means when I'm home, I'm sort of more in dad mode more often and stuff. So, but if I'm in dad mode every day and the kids are just home every day anyways, and there's nothing to do anyways, there's a little bit, it's like accidental writing as opposed to sort of intentional writing, I guess.
Just like he did with the last Owen record, Mike returned to Eau Claire, Wisconsin to work with the production and engineering team of Sean Carey and Zach Hansen. I asked Mike about that relationship and how it affected the outcome of this latest record.
You said you like my voice. You say that to all the boys.
I'm just a fan of his, I guess. So the first record, it was sort of like friends of friends, like it was when I realized it was a possibility, I sort of jumped on it. And I think we had played some shows together, but I didn't really know him well and I hadn't worked with him. And then he brought Zach, with him, and just the combination was like, for me, it's a dream come true. It's just like the nicest people, and they're super competent. And every day I was just sort of like thankful. I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. You guys are putting effort into my songs. You know what I mean? Like, it's sort of like bewildering. You know what I mean? Like there's a reason I go to bed every night sort of like thinking about these songs and sort of, coming up with arrangements and sort of obviously the lyrics. I'm writing the songs and I'm into it, so I'm invested. But for them to like take it as far as they do, it's really it's appreciated. And obviously, like I said, I'm a fan, so like I trust whatever direction they're sort of like leading things. I kind of went in a little more. I didn't really have things as fleshed out as maybe even just sort of in my brain as I did the first time. And I generally don't in a studio. Like I know the arc of a song, but I don't know the details. But this time I was totally like, I trusted them. You know what I mean? Like I would literally just be like, I want this to sound like this one REM song. And I'd tell them the specific song and we'd all listen. And then Sean would be able to compose strings that would sort of mimic that feeling, So he's like so good at sort of manipulating sort of emotion with, he knows music in a way that he knows like what notes are going to do to people. So yeah, I was able to, it was in a way a lot more relaxing, just being like, okay, even though I don't know exactly what the strings are going to do here, I know the sentiment, you know? Well, that's also Zach too, you know, that's what I'm sort of like, I want to put another guitar here, and, you know, in the wrong hands, it would be sort of muddled or overwhelming and stuff, but he really separates things, and he's got, you know, he's so good with tones.
In the liner notes, I saw that you guys recorded both in Eau Claire and Chicago. Is that correct?
It was sort of accidental. It was the end of the session was when I would usually put the final vocals on an album, just because like it's sort of better to get inflections and stuff once more instruments are there, or there's some like better rough mixes. But I was like super sick in Eau Claire for the entire sort of there was 2, maybe 8 or 9 day sessions. And the second one, I was sick the entire time and couldn't sing. So I just, in Chicago, I went to a studio that I'm familiar with and friends with, and spent a few literally overnights just by myself tracking vocals.
Due to the manner in which the record was completed, I asked Mike if any songs were left on the cutting room floor, and here's what he had to say.
I think there was maybe 2 more, and maybe 1. You kind of, the way I do it is I record sort of acoustics or to a click track, you know, and, you know, they've heard the demo sort of, so they know kind of what the drums are going to be, or generally like what the song is going to be. And I feel like one of them didn't make it past day 3, you know, just sort of like, okay, maybe this is a different vibe or something. And then another one, we got guitars and we got drums and we got some piano. And then I think I was starting to do like some rough vocals, and it just didn't, nobody was sort of like gravitating towards it. Does that make sense? You know, like the other ones, it's sort of like, okay, cool. Like we threw a bunch of keyboards on this one. What's the next one? And then we pick one that somebody's excited about a part, and then we, you know, try to do it. And so I forget, I think one of them made it pretty far. And so, yeah, I mean, it's sort of like, it bums me out for about whatever, 9 hours, you know, at the end of that session, I feel like I abandoned a child or something, like, oh man, I could have, you know, I should have tried harder. I should have done this. But the next day it's already kind of like, okay, you know, well, let's move on to the next one. And there's a reason, you know, if somebody's excited about the other ones.
I asked Mike to provide some insight on how the addition of guest vocals from Now Now's Casey Dallinger and the small town atmosphere of Eau Claire lent to the overall feel of the record.
Wherever I go, you go. I shake, I hide, I call, I write.
We played shows with them, and we have the same management, and I'm just a general huge fan. So yeah, I sent her some demos. I'm like, hey, would you want to come and sing on a few of these? And she's amazing. She drove down, and sort of like some of them she hadn't heard. So she was like singing along to scratch vocals. And some of them I'm just like, just give me some oohs and ahs, you know, and then we'll just sort of place them in the song where we need them. So yeah, she's great. Just a fan.
I also noticed in the liner notes, you think the bartenders at the Joint in Eau Claire, was that just a place you'd head up to after recording? Or?
Yeah, I would just kind of, I would finish each night. I just go there kind of with headphones on, and there was usually some games on. It was, you know, it was back in the real world. And I kept going there every night, and I'm a big fan of their $5 pitchers of beer. And one night I came without any money at all. I'd probably been there 5 times in 7 days already or something, but I didn't get any bartenders' names, but he's like, oh, it's cool. And he just literally poured me a pitcher of beer and gave it to me for free. And I, you know, obviously the next time I came in, I threw 20 down or whatever, but that's cool. You know, that's sort of like maybe small town stuff that I appreciated.
Did they know who you were, or was it just
no,
friendly? Okay.
I was just one of many drunks there.
While on the subject of beer, I asked Mike about the special release of the American football themed lager. And while we were on the subject of American football, Mike explained how the pandemic has changed their plans for 2020.
Yeah, it's a brewery out of West Virginia, and I believe it was the Doom and Full Bloom,
Okay, yeah,
lager or something. Yeah, it was fantastic. We played like some record release shows for LP3, and they supplied a bunch of the beers, and it was a great time. That's great. Yeah, and the same. As much as we can be, we're sort of trying to be productive. Just we're passing files back and forth, and we're doing some Zoom calls, but I'm not gonna lie, like it's taken its toll. It's pretty discouraging. There's like, well, what's the point? Like we're moving shows that were supposed to be spring of 2020, like just a few months ago, we moved them to maybe late fall, and now we're getting emails about moving them till late spring. It's just, yeah. So, everybody's got kids, everybody's got other things going on. So it's sort of maybe stressful, or it's not that satisfying. There's like there's no sight to any sort of immediate gratification by doing it. So yeah, it's sort of taking its toll a little bit, but we're kind of working on stuff slowly.
As he wrapped up our conversation, Mike shared his unique plans around promoting the Avalanche during the pandemic, and we also chatted about his recent cover of the 1975's song, Me.
I heard you playing in the middle of the night, don't you mind? I nearly killed somebody, don't you mind, don't you mind? Gave you something you could never give.
We mixed a bunch of, there was, I think, 3 different music videos. We were able to sort of salvage one that'll come out pretty soon. And then we're shooting and have shot a bunch of them, like just each song, just me solo in some isolated location. So that's going to be a series sort of that'll pick up. I'm not sure when the label wants to sort of roll those out, but there should be, each song on the album will have a different sort of like live treatment, instead of like a proper music video.
How do you select what you want to cover?
I don't know. I kind of, that one, I was just like, it was the only song I listened to for a few weeks. It's just the right time. You're like, hey, you want to do a cover? I'm like, I sure do. I want to do this one. I remember, that song, I'm like, how is this kid who wrote this, in his 20s, and he's singing, it's like, I'm 43 and it's resonating, like it's hitting me hard. I'm like, that's not fair. I'm like, I enjoy it. It seems like it's almost like no pressure, like it's like the fun part about like sort of like writing and singing and trying to make it sound cool and sound good. But there's no pressure. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you don't like it? Well, it's not, I didn't even write it. You know what I mean? It's like, well, somebody else did it. And so, yeah.
This pandemic has affected everybody's way of life, and for a lot of musicians, staying busy is key. And for Mike, it's no different.
Busy all day. I'm not even sure how, but every day I'm like, oh my God, I'm so busy. So yeah, I'm busy. I'm writing. I think my chops, I'm working on my writing chops more than my technique chops probably, or my technical chops. But it's sort of the only thing I can be doing often. So.
I memorized my life, taught myself to cry.